Hello, everyone. Welcome to our April edition of Higher Education Tableau User Group, the HETUG. Looks like we do have some new people joining us today. Welcome if it's your first HETUG meeting. We're excited to have you. We will get started in just a minute. Our agenda, we are going to have announcements followed by our final lightning round, at least for now. Tips and tricks with Lisa Trescott, the Tableau Pulse from Harold Thomas and Dan Bradley, and then we'll wrap up and chat like we usually do. To get the announcements rolling, I have an announcement. The Analytics Day registration is now open for the newcomers. Analytics Day is a one-day mini conference that we host every June at Appalachian State University over Zoom, and registration is free. It is limited to the first 1,000 people. You have to register by June 3rd. Once you do, you'll get a link to submit a proposal, and you will have to do that by May 8th. I would love for everyone to submit a proposal. It'll give you lots to choose from. And like I said, it is a one-day mini conference focused on Tableau users in higher education. So kind of this group, only for one day. So definitely get in there and register if you haven't done it already. And I will open the floor to any other announcements. Come off mute and share any job postings or interesting things you think the group would like to know about. Or if you don't want to come off mute, you can put them in the chat as well. No takers? All right, I guess we will get started then with our final, for now, lightning round. Turn it over to you, Andrew.
All right, thanks very much, Ginny. Yes, as you alluded to, final for now lightning round. So we got some feedback, and as good institutional analytics professionals, we analyzed the data and paid attention to what it told us. And so we decided to make a change. And that change, at least for now, is to move on from lightning round after today. But we wanted to first give it a proper send-off. So you may notice in the photo here that there is a plane being struck by lightning. I have learned that planes are designed to withstand this, which is good comfort given I'm about to get on an airplane. So let's get into it. Our proper send-off is going to be interactive and involving you. So for those who have not seen this before, we're going to use a platform called Kahoot. It allows you to play interactively. And you'll see up at the top of your screen and now in the chat that there is a link to Kahoot and a game pin. So you can scan this with your phone if you use the QR code, or you can type in the URL or click in the chat. Thank you for our first 5-6 joiners. We appreciate it. I'll give you all a couple of minutes to get involved in the game. Saw at least one Einstein-looking character in there. Good job, Evan, with tying it into the Tableau Pulse presentation later today. We'll give it just another minute for others to join.
Come on, folks, can we get to 100 people? I feel like I'm on a telethon. Can we get to 100 people? We're at 92 right now. We just need 8 more folks to hit our quota. Apparently the telethon reference was not a good one. It did not help anyone say yes.
Oh, we got up to 93. There's got to be at least one advancement professional in here who can empathize with how you're feeling at the moment, Jenny. Excuse me, Roshni. Okay, so it looks like we're leveling out at 93. You're welcome to join sometime later if you're just joining us now. That's totally cool, but let's get on with the game. And if you're just joining, the link is in the chat. Okay, so our first question is, who is the fastest track and field star? Usain Bolt, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Dougie Doug, or Forrest Gump? Y'all are fast. This is great. 4 seconds. Okay, great. And our next question, with Haim in the lead, followed closely by several at 976. Our next question is going to be about vacation hotspots. Which of the following lightning hotspots would you want to go to for a vacation? Five, four, three, two, one. Last chance. Okay, it looks like Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela is a popular hotspot, followed by the Everglades. Okay. Mel is in the lead, and Lisa with the lightning bolt is second place. Our next question is, who is your favorite shock jock? Howard Stern, Jock McKinley, DJ Jazzy Jeff, or DJ HETUG? Ten seconds. Okay, close competition between Howard Stern and DJ HETUG. The correct answer in this case was Jock McKinley, who was previously Tableau's Director of Visual Analytics Research, and among other things has created the visualization shown here that talks about what features were released by Tableau version. I joined just below the fold in version 3.0, so I was excited when maps and dashboards got added. So continuing with our lightning round theme, our next question is, where would you rather go? To death at Disneyland, death by chocolate, death by 1,000 cuts, or death by lightning? Ten seconds. Okay, it looks like death by chocolate was our winner. And our top three are now Anna, Bub, and Dan. Good job, everybody. The next question is, who is your favorite ice hockey team? The Mighty Ducks, the Vancouver Canucks, the California Golden Seals, or the Tampa Bay Lightning? And 10 seconds. It looks like our most popular choice is the Mighty Ducks, and unlike what was posted in the chat about it being the Carolina Hurricanes, the correct answer should have been the Vancouver Canucks.
Are we going to have a hockey fight in the chat now?
Oh, I think the Arizonans actually have a pretty good stake at that one at the moment. So our fingers crossed for a positive outcome, but it's looking like long odds. The next question is a multi-select. So your favorite way to be struck is the basis of the question. And we're wondering whether you'd rather be awestruck, thunderstruck, starstruck, love-struck, or any and all of the above. Five seconds to go. Hard to decide between these, I guess. Pretty close competition, and this is the participation ribbon version of our question, so everybody gets a point from this one. Okay, 3 questions to go. So question number 8 is also a multi-select, wondering what your favorite kind of storm is. Storm from the American Gladiator, the hurricane, the cocktail or mocktail in this case, the Jackson Storm from Cars 3, or Storm from the X-Men. Three seconds. All right. Looking like the Hurricane, Cocktail, Mocktail, and Storm from the X-Men were our most popular choices. We can see Dan in first position on our leaderboard, followed by Clippy, which is great comeback. Maybe Microsoft is listening. Okay, for our second and final question, in which season would you want to visit Hong Kong? Spring, summer, autumn, or fall for those who prefer, or winter? And 10 seconds on this one, and then we'll be on our final question. Looks like spring and autumn are the winners. A little bit fewer tourists, a little bit cooler weather. Sounds pretty good to me. Okay, and we've got quite the competition for the top 3 or 4 here. So good luck in the final question, everybody. So we're wondering what our next dashboard spotlight should be. They say April showers bring May flowers. Well, the storms are coming to an end. So starting next month, instead of lightning round, we'll be having a spotlight round where we'll shine a light on a specific dashboard that the Meet a Community member finds inspiring. It could be one of their own. It could be one that they find through Tableau Public or some other means. What kind of dashboard do you think we should spotlight? Tableau Conference highlights, summer vacation, Mother May I, or the sun? Oh, pretty close one, but looks like TC highlights and summer vacation are 1 and 2. We'll keep the other ones in our back pocket though, because it's always good to have more presentation ideas. Thank you everybody for playing this game with us. We appreciate it. And I think it'll show our leaderboard when we click next. So this is a little bit like Whose Line It Is anyways, where the questions and points are made up. Scores don't matter, but you may get bragging rights. So here's our poll positions. In 3 was Null in a unique spelling. 2 was Clippy, and position number 1 was Steve. Congratulations, everybody. Thanks for playing.
I can't exit out of full screen. All right, so next up, well, TC highlights was, that top rated answer in that last question, but TC hasn't happened yet. And if you haven't ever been to TC, or even if you have, it's always great to get some details on what to see, what to do. And to help us with that is Lisa Trescott, our handy dandy CCC TUG co-lead, an Iron Viz champion back in 2021. And a Tableau visionary, I believe. It's your first year, second year at that? I don't remember.
First year.
First year. So congrats on being a visionary.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming in and telling us all about what we should expect at TC24.
Yeah, so let me share my screen and get my presentation. All right, can you all see that?
You're good to go, Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, thanks for having me. As you all probably know, TC is coming up very quick. We are less than 2 weeks out. And this is going to be my 4th time going in person. My first time was back in 2018. And when I attended that conference, I was very ill prepared for it. I thought it was going to be like every other work conference that I had been to, with some sessions and some mingling and early nights. That is not at all what I found. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I didn't really pack properly. I didn't plan properly. I was definitely not prepared for the energy and enthusiasm and kind of stimulus overload that comes with TC. And I think as a result, I just didn't make the most out of that conference. So I am here to hopefully prevent that from happening to you all. So I'm going to talk about what to expect pretty broadly, and I'll dive then deeper into kind of all the different session types that there are at the conference. Then we'll go into kind of what to do each day and things that I think are not to miss. We'll talk about kind of like the unofficial TC dress code, what people usually wear, and then we'll finish up with some tips and lessons that I've learned in my last 3 conferences. And I put questions here at the end too, but feel free to throw questions in the chat. I'm not super great at monitoring the chat as I present, but I promise I will answer all questions at the end. So let's jump in and talk about what to expect. I'm super excited that you all are coming to my hometown of San Diego this year. And it's going to be 3 very busy days full of data down at the San Diego Convention Center from April 29th to May 1st. Now, the Convention Center is a really nice venue. It's right on the harbor in downtown, so it's on the water. It's right next to Petco Park. If you want to catch a baseball game while you're here, it's outside the gas lamp district, so there's lots of nightlife and restaurants and things. So if you do have some extra time, definitely check out the sights and scenes that are going on right around the conference. So the focus of this presentation is going to be that in-person portion. I'm going to go through what to expect and kind of all these different kind of breakout sessions. But I will mention that there is also an opportunity to attend the conference virtually. And you can do that for free on Salesforce Plus. So you register at their website, and you will have access to some of the content. So it won't be all of the same content that you see in person, but things like keynotes, IronViz, high-profile sessions, they're all going to be recorded and available for you to stream on Salesforce Plus. And even though the conference in person starts on Monday, you won't have anything to stream until Tuesday on Salesforce Plus. So there is a day delay. And so if you're trying to stream on Monday, you won't have anything to watch. So it'll start on Tuesday and it goes through Thursday, and then there'll be on-demand sessions after that, which both in-person and virtual attendees can access after the conference. So there's a lot more available online this year than there has been in recent previous years. So if you aren't able to make it to the conference in person, or even if you are and you want to see some on-demand sessions, you can do that all on Salesforce Plus. But like I said, the focus of this presentation will really be on the in-person part. So I'm going to dive into the different session types and what to expect with each of those. So first and foremost, there are breakout sessions. These are like the meat and potatoes of the conference. There are over 200 this year. They range between 20 and 40 minutes. So some of them are a little shorter. Just make sure you're paying attention to that when you build out your schedule. And then all sessions, not just breakout, but all sessions are first come, first seated. So this means that even if you have put a session on your agenda in your schedule builder, it doesn't guarantee you a seat. Or you could show up and it could be full and you could get turned away. So if you have a session you really want to see, make sure you plan accordingly and get there a little early so that you can see it there in person. Also keep in mind, 60% of sessions this year are going to be repeated. So if you go to your first session and it's full, you might still be able to catch a rerun later on. And that's all available to see in the schedule builder. And then some sessions, like I mentioned before, are going to be recorded and then put on Salesforce Plus. So you'll have access to those on demand. Unfortunately, there's no flag in the schedule builder to indicate if a session is being recorded. So you actually have to cross-reference it on Salesforce Plus, which is a little cumbersome. But if you are choosing between two sessions, maybe check to see if one is recorded and maybe go to the one that's not being recorded, right? If you're there in person, because that's probably the only time you're going to have access to it. And just to give you an idea of the different rooms and breakout rooms there are traditional conference rooms. These ones have doors and walls, and they are a contained space. And you might be thinking, why are you telling me this room has a door? Because not all of them do. So last year, none of the rooms had doors. They were all done in kind of these open areas via silent disco, which is where you are wearing headphones that they pass out. And the only way you can hear the presentation is through the headphones. So there'll be sessions like that as well. And then there are these theater style presentations, which are way more out in the open. Again, a silent disco situation. And typically these are the 20-minute kind of shorter content sessions. So in addition to breakouts, you also have live community projects. So this year there are 4. So there's Back to Viz Basics, Makeover Monday, Workout Wednesday, and Prep and Data. And at these sessions, the leaders of the project will be there. They'll give you the data. They'll talk about the parameters for that project, and then you'll work through it live in person with everyone else in the room. They are scheduled for 40 minutes, which I think is a little bit shorter than they have been previously. So it's pretty quick to do the project, but it is hands-on. So you'll want to BYOC or bring your own computer and make sure Tableau is on that computer. I hope that goes without saying, because that's how you're going to work through the project live with everyone in the room. You also have 60 hands-on trainings to choose from this year, and these are scheduled for an hour and a half. So they're a little longer than your traditional sessions, and they're more of like a classroom. So just like you can see in this picture, everyone's kind of sitting there again with their own computer. So bring your own computer, and it's a classroom style, and it's led by Tableau trainers. So these trainers will cover some of the kind of core concepts and features in Tableau. And they range in skill level. So make sure that you pay attention to the skill level that each hands-on session advertises, because you don't want to find yourself in a hands-on room with, where the skill is either way above or way beneath you. So just make sure you pay attention to that. And then there are also keynotes. So there are technically 3. There's the opening keynote with devs on stage. There's True to the Core. And then they have Iron Viz marked as a keynote. I'm going to be talking about Iron Viz a little bit later. So for now, I'm just going to focus on the opening and the True to the Core keynote. But the opening keynote is on Tuesday from 10 to 11:30, and it will be held in like the main arena. So it's tons of seating capacity. It is first come, first seated, but you will get a seat because it's a huge area. It's aimed at housing everyone. However, there are also overflow areas to watch the keynote. If you are not up for, let's call it big data energy at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. There's lots of music, there's lots of lights, there's lots of people. If you're not up for that right in the morning, you can watch in an overflow area, usually in the data village. So this year, the opening keynote is titled Start with Data, Move Forward with Tableau. And from the description on the event page, it looks like it's going to be pretty AI heavy. But it will be a discussion of where kind of Tableau is and where it's going. They usually show some testimonials from Tableau customers, and it will include devs on stage, which is one of my favorite portions of the conference because this is a sneak peek of the features that were going to be released in future versions of Tableau. It's also just really fun. It's all the Tableau developers up on stage, kind of giving quirky, silly presentations of the features. And I always really love hearing the oohs and ahs from a whole arena full of data nerds when they're talking about line patterns, right? It's always just kind of silly. So that's the main keynote, but there's also this True to the Core keynote, which is a little bit different. This is going to be on Wednesday from 1 to 2, and it's different from the main keynote because it's much smaller. So it's not going to be held in that main keynote arena. It will be in a ballroom, and it's aimed at being more of a Q&A. So it's like a town hall with Tableau leaders where you are actually in a room and you can ask them questions directly. So I don't know about you, but I don't anticipate being in a room with Ryan Ate again. So he's the CEO of Tableau. So it's a really cool opportunity to just ask the questions that you may not get a chance to ask someone like that, like where's spell check, something like that, just for example. There's also 14 community meetups this year, which happen in a dedicated space in the Data Village. We're going to talk about the Data Village in a little bit. But for now, we'll just talk about the meetups, which are really opportunities to network. So it's really networking with people who may have a common interest. The focus is on connecting you with folks either in your industry, from your demographic group, or some other thing that links you all together. And just like all the other sessions, you bookmark them in your schedule. You just show up. I don't think they would ever turn anyone away from a meetup, so don't worry about running there, like maybe with high-profile sessions. But you just show up and start chatting. And there are 14 meetups that I listed here in this orange box. But I know there is one in particular that's very relevant to all of us. And that is the Education Plus Nonprofits Meetup, which is hosted by none other than two of our illustrious HETUG leaders, Ginny and Roshni. And it is happening Wednesday from 12 to 12:45. So it's the last day of the conference. So it'll be a good time for us to kind of get together and chat about maybe conference highlights and what we liked and what we learned. So you'll definitely want to check this one out. I plan to be there. So between Ginny, Roshni, and me, you'll have 3 friendly faces to chat with, plus a whole bunch of other people. And I also wanted to call out one other meetup for those of you who may be first timers or newer to Tableau. This is a great one to attend if this is your first conference, because it's happening Monday at 9 a.m. So it's right there at the start of the conference. You'll get to meet and talk to other newbies, and you'll also get to talk to the leaders of the Tableau newbie group, which are Jim Daner and Klaus Schulte. They're Tableau visionaries and 2 really wonderful people. They're super kind and very dedicated to helping people out who are new to Tableau. So they're great people to just chat with in general. So I wanted to make sure I highlighted this meetup for you too. Then last but not least, there's also Tableau Doctor. If you have a question that you need help with and you want to talk to a Tableau expert, you can book a one-on-one appointment with a Tableau Doctor. These are not come, first serve. So this is the only thing that I've mentioned so far that is not first come, first serve. You have to book an appointment, which you can do through the Tableau Conference website. And appointments do fill up. So if you do have a question that you really want to book a session for, I would recommend doing it as soon as possible. Like, do it right now if you really want to get your questions answered. So those are all kind of the different sessions and what to expect from them. But now we'll jump into the actual schedule and talk about what there is to do on each day.
Lisa, quick question before you get into that. Where does one sign up for Tableau Doctor?
Through the Tableau Conference website. So there's an option on there. I can find the link after the presentation and put it in the chat for you all.
I'll go looking. Thank you.
Perfect. So every day is going to have 5 things in common. They will all have breakouts. They'll all have hands-on training, Tableau Doctor, meetups, and then the Data Village will be open. And then I've bolded things on Tuesday and Wednesday that are only happening on those days. And as you might be able to tell from this, Tuesday is kind of like the show. Like, this is the big day. It's going to be the longest day. You have the keynote in the morning, and then all the way at the end of the day, you have Iron Viz, followed by Data Night Out, which goes until 9 p.m. It is a long day. Plan accordingly. I'm going to go to bed early on Monday night, so I have the energy to get through Tuesday because it is going to be a long day. And then Wednesday is kind of a little calmer, back to your regularly scheduled programming with just that extra true to the core keynote in there. So I do have a couple of sessions that I want to call out in terms of ones that are high on my list that I think will be good sessions and good ones for this group and just helpful in general. And on Monday, first and foremost, I have called out the Tableau Tip Battle, which is a seriously fun event. It's a bracket style challenge where community members go head to head to give their best tips. And then eventually 2 people will advance to the final round where they're going to build a viz in 10 minutes. So half the time of Iron Viz. And it's always good fun. It always has a theme, and the participants will dress in costume to the theme. This year it's Harry Potter. And I will just mention that Ken and Kevin Flairlage and I are all 3 judging this event, and we have coordinated our costumes. So you may want to show up just to see what we have in store. I've also called out Dennis Cow's presentation titled Level Up Your Maps in Tableau. His session is going to be one of those repeated sessions. It's going to be on Monday and Tuesday. That's what this little M and T indicate. But he's a maps master. Like if you just check out his Tableau public profile, he has made a whole series just of San Diego maps recently leading up to this conference. They're beautiful. So I can't wait to hear his tips. Maps are not my strong suit. I'm pretty weak when it comes to maps. So this is one that I think will be really helpful and give some great techniques for maps. You also have Tableau Speed Tips. This is a conference staple. It happens every year. And it's visionaries and ambassadors giving tips literally just as fast as they can. So this session is really all about exposure, just to kind of see and get an idea of what's possible to do in Tableau. This one will be recorded, so you could go back onto Salesforce Plus and pause it if you see a tip that you really wanted to remember and see it again. And then lastly, on Monday, I have Beyond the Boundaries of Tableau, which is Trishan Giovan's session. He's going to be talking all about using Viz extension to make advanced chart types in Tableau. Now, Viz extensions are still in beta, but they're going to be coming soon. And I'm really excited about this. This is marked as an advanced session, but I wanted to call it out because I think just having the ability to create advanced chart types almost natively in Tableau with these extensions is going to be kind of a game changer, right? Imagine a world where you can build a Sankey just by drag and dropping, no data prep, no templates. It's like you're building a bar chart, right? So I think this is going to be a really exciting session to see. And he's doing his repeat twice on Monday. So he'll be presenting 2 times on Monday. Now on Tuesday, this is a little self-serving, but I've called out my session. This is at the speed of Iron Viz, tips for faster builds, where I'll be giving all my favorite tips for saving you clicks and saving time to work more efficiently in Tableau. So if you want to get a little faster and streamline your workflow, you can join me Tuesday or Wednesday for this session. Now, education and higher ed is not a very prominent industry at the conference. It hasn't been historically, and unfortunately it is kind of that way again this year. So I wanted to make sure I called out 2 education-related sessions. One is being presented by our co-lead Roshni, and that's Are Scores Ready Yet? Motivating Students with Tableau, where she and her co-presenters are going to be talking about how academic decathlon students are using data to study more effectively. And the other one I wanted to call out is Closing the Achievement Gap One Tableau Trick at a Time. This is Jake Furman, and he's going to be talking about how his public school system empowers teachers and school leaders through data. So 2 good education-related sessions there. On Wednesday, I've included another session that's being presented by our HETUG co-lead Ginny, and that's Gamify Tableau, where she and Doc Kevin Elder are going to be talking about building and using games in Tableau, so it's sure to be a very fun presentation. And then it would be silly for me to call out sessions without mentioning the Flairlash twins, right? They are going to be delivering their 3rd installment of how to do cool stuff in Tableau. It's definitely one you don't want to miss. I always learn something from their presentations, whether it's like a quick tip or a new technique. They're always really helpful. They are presenting twice, once on Monday and Wednesday, and they're going to be recorded on Salesforce Plus. So you can't miss them, basically, whether you're in person or not. And lastly, I highlighted Data Makeover, a guide to crafting award-winning Vizes, which is going to be Preeti Loda and Kimberly Scott. They are both really great designers and great storytellers in Tableau. And I like this one because there is a focus on that data storytelling piece, which I think is great to have in all industries, but we're kind of in a unique space to tell compelling stories with our data, I think, because our data is people, right? Like every one of our data points represents a person and something they've done on their journey. So I think we're in a great situation to tell stories with our data. And this is a good presentation to kind of hone those skills. So these are 10 presentations that I have high on my list, but they are just recommendations, right? You definitely want to get in and explore the session catalog, find other ones that are relevant to you, your interest, your skill set. And if you want something that's maybe a little bit more tailored in terms of guiding you in what to see and do, Tableau has also put together what they're calling trail maps, where you pick one of these paths and then they provide some curated sessions and things to do for you. So this might be an area you want to check out as well if you want to kind of see what Tableau suggests. And then no matter what you do, make sure you spend some time in the data village. So this is really the hub and heart of the conference, where you're going to find places to kind of just like sit and hang out with people. The TC photo booth is there. You can get all your cheesy data speech bubble pictures taken. There are vendor booths. The Tableau store is there if you want to get swag. This is where they do Tableau Doctor, where we do the community meetups. There's usually small feeder sessions there. So there's just a lot going on. There's a lot to do in this area and see. So make sure you carve out some time just to kind of wander around, chat with people, pick up swag, and just kind of have some fun. And the Data Village will be open all 3 days from 8 to 4. So you have plenty of opportunities to go check it out. And then, like I mentioned earlier, at the end of the day on Tuesday, there is going to be Iron Viz, which you definitely don't want to miss. And rather than tell you what Iron Viz is, I am going to show you. I couldn't get the more recent video. But hopefully from that video, you can see Iron Viz is a total spectacle. It's a competition between 3 people who've all been given the same data set, and then they use that data to build a viz live in front of you in just 20 minutes. Tableau really aims to put on a show with Iron Viz. They have a lot of flair for the dramatics. The hosts, Andy and Archana, are always dressed like it's an award show. In past years, the audience has been given light up boomsticks that you can wave around. There's confetti when the winner is announced. There's fog. It's just a whole lot of fun, and it's just a silly time. But this year, the contestants are Chris Westlake, Jessica Moon, and Pata Gagova, and they will be taking the Iron Viz stage at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. It's definitely a conference highlight that you do not want to miss. And then after Iron Viz, everyone's going to head to Data Night Out, which is really just a big, giant data party from 6 to 9 on Tuesday night. There'll be food, there'll be drinks, there'll be music, entertainment. This year, they will have Austin Mills and DJ Dave for live music. If that's not your jam, like I have no idea who they are, don't worry, because there's always still a lot of other entertainment, games, foods, things to do outside of just that live concert. This year, Data Night Out is it's just a couple steps from the convention center. It's at the Rady Shell, which is in Jacobs Park, which is basically out the back door of the convention center. According to Google Maps, it is a 7-minute walk. So plan on walking there. Tableau's definitely not gonna have shuttles for something that close. And plan on getting there early if you want to avoid lines. Last year, I got there pretty much when they opened, and I still was waiting about 20 minutes just to get in. So plan for a little bit of wait and try to get there as early as you can. You're also going to want to travel light. If you can get away without bringing a bag, do it. Otherwise, bring like the smallest bag you own, because they're not going to let you in with large bags and backpacks, and you don't want to wait in line, get turned away just because you have a large bag. But speaking of bags, what should you wear to this data event of the year? I'm going to be talking about what the majority of people at the conference wear, but you do you, right? You wear whatever you're most comfortable in. If that's a tuxedo, you wear a tuxedo. But you will notice that the conference page suggests you dress business casual. That's a lie. You may see a handful of folks dress business casual if they're presenting, but the majority of people are going to be dressed like this little AI generated conference goer that you see here in kind of the unofficial TC uniform, which is a Tableau or a data themed shirt, jeans, and comfortable shoes. And comfortable shoes are an absolute must. You are going to be walking a ton. You'll probably hit your step goal by the time you get to lunch, right? You're on the go from morning to night. They're super long days. So make sure that you have comfortable shoes. Now, you don't need to really carry a big bag to TC, but I usually like to have a backpack or a messenger bag, if only just for the swag that I accumulate, right? Vendors are giving you swag. Data fan members are giving you swag. You might be buying t-shirts or books or cups and mugs, whatever. So I usually just like to have a place to store all that. I also typically take my laptop with me. You don't have to have it unless you're doing hands-on sessions like I talked about earlier, but I would at least bring a notebook or something to take notes. So again, I just like to have my bag to throw that in. You're also going to want to grab a jacket. I would layer up, probably with a data-themed hoodie if you have it, because temperatures are always super unpredictable in convention centers. You're probably going to freeze or you're going to sweat. Like there's no in between. And then you just want to make sure you stay hydrated. I literally always have this water bottle. So I always bring a refillable water bottle. You're going to be talking a lot, more than you think you are, even if you're introverted like myself. And sometimes you're talking really loudly over conference noise. So I always just try to have, water on my person. So this is what most people will wear to the conference. When it comes to data night out, you can wear the same thing if you want. I would say it's about 50-50 in terms of people who wear what they wore to the conference and people who change. But if you do wear what you wore to the conference, make sure you ditch the backpack and you ditch the water bottle, right? Like I said earlier, they are not going to let you in if you have these things. You want to basically have nothing but yourself and your conference badge. And you can ditch those things, but definitely don't ditch your jacket. Keep your layers. San Diego has a reputation for being all warm and sunny. But the nights actually get pretty cold here. And data night out is at a venue that's right on the water. Like Jacobs Park is this peninsula on the water. So there's nothing to block the wind. There's no indoor space. So I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit chilly. I would definitely have a jacket or a layer of some sort. Now, like I said, like half the people will probably wear what they wore to the conference. Others might take an opportunity to do a costume change and maybe dress up a little bit, but it's not going to be anything crazy fancier over the top. But if you do change, keep that layer, make sure you have a layer to stay warm, and then just bring the smallest bag you have. In my super tiny bag, I like to throw a pair of earplugs. I know I probably sound like an old woman, but my ears cannot handle the sound of data night out, especially if you're super close to the stage. It can get seriously loud. So I always like to bring earplugs. Can you tell I'm a mom? I'm like, bring your jacket and protect your ears. But you should bring a jacket and protect your ears. Okay, lastly, I'm going to finish up just giving you a couple pro tips that I wish that I had known back when I did my first conference in 2018. First and foremost, I would pick up your badge Sunday night. The line on Monday morning gets pretty long, and you cannot get into the conference without that conference badge. So I would hit up registration Sunday night. You can go any time between 3 and 8 on Sunday. You'll also want to make sure.
Quick question. What do you need to register? Just yourself, or do you need an ID?
Oh, actually, that's a good question. I think you probably need an ID, but let me double check on that. I don't know. You've stumped me.
Sorry. I just know some folks in other conferences are like, oh, let me just register for insert my colleagues' names here.
Oh, I don't think you can pick up a badge. No, I know you can't pick up a badge for someone else. So I would guess you probably need to have your ID, but I'll double check and find out before the end of the meeting.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So you also want to make sure you get the app. So the app I'm talking about is the Salesforce event app, which you can download now, but the Tableau conference has not actually gone live in it yet. So you can't do anything for Tableau conference yet in the app. I'm sure that will go live in the coming days. It's definitely going to be live by the conference. And that's really when you're going to want it and need it. But I like to have the app because it really just puts the schedule in the palm of your hand, right? You can access your own schedule, and then maybe you need to pivot because a session gets full. You have access to see where a backup session might be. It's also handy because they have maps of the convention center in there. Odds are you're probably going to lose your way at some point, or if you're pivoting to a new session, you don't know where it is. It's really handy to just have that map right there with you. The app also sends you reminders. So, when main things are going on, it will alert you when, breakfast and lunch is happening, when the keynotes are happening, when you should get to data night out, things like that. And then you can also do all your session surveys in the app. It's really helpful to presenters if you give constructive feedback in the surveys about their sessions. So just please be good researchers and complete your surveys. And then in addition to getting the app, I would also highly suggest that you plan ahead, build out your schedule before you get to the conference. You can do that either using the app once it's live, or you can do it right now on the conference website. So, go in, check out all the sessions, favorite ones that you're interested in, and then you can start building your agenda. And one thing you might notice as you start to build your schedule is it doesn't allow you to book sessions that overlap with each other. So if you put one on your agenda and then try to put another one on at the same time, maybe as your backup, it's not going to let you. It's going to force your hand to only pick one, which is super annoying because some sessions overlap by like 10 minutes. And you're like, oh, well, I could just leave this session a little early and get to the other one, or I could do both. And the schedule builder is like, no, you can't do that. But I have a hack. So there is an option on the agenda builder to add personal time. And this personal time is, it can overlap with anything. So it can overlap with other sessions. It can overlap with the keynote. You can put it on there at any time. So if you click this button on the website, you'll get a pop-up window that looks like this. And then you can put anything you want. You can put up your backup session in there. You can put breaks. You can put meals. You can put time to wander. You can put a nap in there, like whatever you want. And then the reason that I like this so much is because I have a lot of instances like this where I wanted to go to at least part of the Vizzies, which are the Data Fam Community Awards, but they overlap 10 minutes with the education meetup, which I also want to go to. So the schedule builder won't let me book both of them. So I just put the education meetup in as personal time and problem solved. So that's a good way to kind of build the schedule of your dreams, right? Use that personal time and really leverage it to your advantage. And then I don't usually like to bum rush food stations, but at TC I do what's necessary. So it's conference food, so it's not spectacular to begin with, but anything worth eating is probably going to run out quickly. So I usually try to line up and get food pretty much as soon as it's available, as long as I'm not, in a session. They usually have grab and go options. So I'll if I'm not hungry at 11, I'll grab it and then obviously eat it later when it's actually lunchtime. And then speaking of getting places early, I would also try to get any swag you want from the Tableau store kind of early, because they do run out of things. They run out of popular sizes and items. So if you have your eye on something, I would try to get there probably on the first day just to make sure you can get what you want. And speaking of swag, whether you buy it or not, you're likely going to accumulate some while you're there. So when you come out here to San Diego, leave a little extra space in your suitcase, right? Don't pack it to the brim. You're probably going to have some new things to take home with you. So you want to have space. And last, but absolutely not least, please take care of yourself. Take breaks, build them into your schedule, plan to go off site for a lunch one day, or just go outside and get some fresh air. As you have seen, there is tons going on at this conference at all times. You can't do it all. Don't plan to do it all. Let go of your FOMO because you can't make it to everything, and skip a session and go for a walk, right? You may not be able to tell, but I'm actually kind of introverted, so I can turn it on, but it's super draining for me. So I absolutely have time built out, that personal time in my schedule, to just kind of take a breather so that I can come back and be a nice version of myself. So I highly suggest taking time to recharge your battery in whatever way that looks like for you.
Are there going to be some sensory rooms? I know in the past they've done like the quiet rooms where you can sit in a corner, no tech or low tech, and just get away from some of the noise.
I haven't seen that advertised anywhere, but you usually can find quiet space. I mean, I wouldn't do it in the data village. I'd probably do it out in the middle of the conference center where there's kind of like corners you can hole away in. I haven't seen that formally advertised, but you can find some quiet spaces because it is overwhelming. Like there is so much noise. There's so many people. And it's just a lot. It's a lot to take in. So that's a good point, Roshni. Any other questions? I'm going to go through the chat after this and make sure there's nothing outstanding, but I'll also grab the link to the Tableau Doctor sessions if you could find it.
I threw that in there already.
Okay.
But we did have a question about where, if there's a list of where sessions will be recorded. I'm looking now on the Salesforce Plus page.
So you click the on-demand one, the on-demand piece.
I see that now. So I'm putting that link in there. You may have to register for Salesforce Plus in order to see some of these details, but it's free to register. So why not do it?
Yeah. Yeah, you might have to register on Salesforce Plus to see the on-demand, but if you click on demand, it will have all the list of recorded sessions. There's like 4 different categories. It was a super early slide. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, I think
it looks like this. Yeah, and all of these, when you click on them, will take you to the sessions that are being recorded, which is, like I said, I wish they just had a little flag in the session catalog so you could just easily say, oh, this one's recorded, but unfortunately they do not.
Do you know if they are letting non-conference guests pay to join Data Night Out? I know they've done that in the past, but I haven't
They've
seen
done it in the
anything.
past, but it's expensive. Like I remember asking about that one year, and it was something like $300
Yeah.
just to get
Just for
Data Night
a
Out.
few hours of listening to some DJ you've never heard of.
Right. That's like $100 an hour. So I haven't looked into it this year because I didn't have the need, but it has not been very financially feasible to do in the past. So yes, but also probably not.
Why?
Yeah. Unless you're a big DJ_Dave fan. I don't know.
Who knows? Since you have been an Iron Viz contestant, when do contestants get to see the data for reals? Because it's not like, oh, you're seeing it for the first time when you're
no, that would be
insane.
Impossible. So when I did it, I had 2.5 weeks, which I believe is a little bit shorter than I've heard from other contestants. Usually it's about a month, I think, where you have time to kind of work through the data, analyze it, work with your supervisor, which is like the little companion they give you from Tableau to help out. And because that's really the only person you can talk to about feedback and help and whatnot through the process. So I think it's usually about a month. Yeah, if you're lucky.
Random question. Sorry, I'm like I'm scrolling through these.
No,
really
thank
quickly.
you, because I was going to go through and do this in the chat. So this is perfect.
I know that they've mentioned a few times that this is the largest post-pandemic in-person conference. Do you know what those numbers look like, or have you heard any more detailed information than it's the largest one so far?
I have not, but I do know that since the pandemic, they've been pretty small. Like pre-pandemic, I want to say they were up to like 15,000 at the like 2019 one. It was huge. And then 2022, it was like, I don't even know. It was like maybe like 2,000. It was really small. And then last year it started building up. I can't remember the number, but it's never gone back to, 18,000 people. I'll see if I can find the number. You're stumping me with a lot of stuff.
Hey, it's the HETUG community. We're here to ask all these cool questions.
No, I like it.
All right. I feel like that might be it, but if I missed saying your question out, where do you find the Data Village meetups? So the meetups that Lisa talked about, like the education and nonprofit meetup, because I can't help but, hold on. I'm going to share my screen because we have a slide specifically for this one. Because Ginny and I are co-hosting this with Doc Elder from the University Teaching and Learning TUG. These are all in the session list and in the session builder, so you can add those meetups directly in the app, just like you would any breakout session or the keynotes or anything like that. So yeah, I think that is it for time for questions. So I think I'm going to pass this on to Ginny. Thank you so much, Lisa, for giving us the behind the scenes, know before you go magic for TC24 in your hometown.
Yes, and I will check and see what you need to make sure you need an ID to register, but I'm pretty positive, but I'll check now.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, Ginny, take it away.
All right. We're really excited to welcome Harold and Dan to talk to us about Tableau Pulse. What is Tableau Pulse and how do you use it? So Harold earned a BSBA from Appalachian State University. Yay, go Nears! And an MBA from Western Carolina University, although he is still a loyal Mountaineer. Yes. He was an IR analyst and director at UNC Asheville for 6 years, a data and analytics program leader at Western Carolina for 2 years, and a Tableau solution engineer for 2.5 years, which he still does. He considers himself an outdoor adventurist and loves cycling, rafting, hiking, and camping. Now, Dan earned a BA from the University of Puget Sound, go Loggers, and an MS in Higher Education Administration and Policy from Northwestern University. He has worked as a Tableau Higher Education Solution Engineer for 6 years and is a Chicago Scholars Foundation mentor. So thank you, Harold and Dan. I will turn it over to you.
Thank you for the intro, Ginny. Let me share my screen and we will get started here. Okay. I'm seeing it being shared, so I think you all probably are too. Got a nod from Dan. Yeah, thanks for your time today. Thanks for giving us a slot here. We felt like you all may be wondering, what in the world is Tableau Pulse and how do I use it? So we thought we might have a bit of a real talk session with you. This is not going to be a sales pitch. This is going to be, let's look at the actual product, how a business user would consume it. And then let's look at how you, who most of you all are analysts, would build something like this for your business users. And then we'll make sure we have time for Q&A at the end. So across those three agenda items, we'll try to break those out into 10 minutes each. This slide I intentionally have up here because on the right side, you've got kind of our fake device screenshot kind of stuff going on here. Some of you all may have seen presentations on Pulse or may have seen a demo or a video and been left wondering, did what I just see, is that real? Is this vaporware? Is it even applicable to higher ed? And I started to replace the screenshots on this slide with my actual demo assets with higher education use cases. And I realized, no, you know what? I'm going to leave this here because it's kind of a good intro. I want to pick up where some of that content may have left you wanting more, right? Where this may have not been a real product that you saw a demo of. It may have been a Figma demo, or this is a demo talking about device sales, not student success or admissions funnel. So I kind of intentionally left that here to kind of prime you all for the real talk. So getting into real talk, what is Pulse? Pulse is really designed to address kind of the last audience of analytics. We look at a lot of telemetry data. It's de-identified. We're not looking at individual people's names or what they're looking at, but we have telemetry data on how Tableau is used. And we have seen that only 30% of business users that are provisioned are actually using the analytics. That means 70% of people out there are not actually using self-service analytics. So we started to think about, why is that happening? And we think it really kind of boils down to business users who the analytics just isn't easy enough. It's not built into the flow of their work. It's not contextual enough. It's not personalized enough. So they don't take that extra step to use a Tableau dashboard to answer their questions. So we took a look at what are these kinds of business questions that are being asked, regardless of the use case, and how can we quickly and easily answer those questions with a different type of experience in Tableau. So this is just an example of the kinds of questions that Pulse answers. You can see where it says starts here. That was really kind of the first iteration or the pilot phase of Pulse. I can tell you this slide is already out of date because Pulse now can answer a lot of these other questions like performance. How are we tracking to goal and quota? That capability is very close to being released from our roadmap. So keep in mind these business questions as I show you what the actual product looks like. So without further ado, let's take a look. So this is a Tableau Cloud site, very similar looking to a Tableau server site. So what you may notice is this additional menu item here underneath Explore that says Tableau Pulse. Now this can be toggled for Tableau Cloud sites. You can turn Pulse on or off completely. And then if you turn it on, you also have the ability to turn on or off the generated insights component. So you can actually run with the metrics layer without the generated AI. So if your institution hasn't, stood up a process for approving AI, or for whatever reason you don't want to activate that, you can still use metrics without the AI. But to get the most out of it, you definitely want to use the AI. So this is what it looks like. This is the Pulse homepage. Now, what you'll note is that this kind of looks very different than what you're used to in Tableau. There is still a way to get back to Tableau from this menu, but once you're in Pulse, you're not really looking at dashboards and data sources anymore. What you're looking at is these different metrics. Okay, we call these metric cards or metric details. But at the top of it is a generated executive summary. So what's happening here is I have decided to follow these 7 different metrics. I might be of the perspective here that I'm managing the enrollment, or I'm watching the top of the funnel for admissions. And so all these metrics are related to the funnel performance. So up here, once I follow all of these, I let the AI monitor what's going on with them, and it will call out anything that I need to pay attention to for me without me having to go in and look at each one and keep track of what's happening day by day. So here the AI has detected that lost applications is reaching a new peak. Meanwhile, enrolled was low, and there's a slight increase in overall apps. So overall, 4 of 7 have changed, 1 unfavorably. So right away, I can kind of get a glance at my operations and know where I need to hone in on and do more digging. The other thing I'll call out here is that we keep human in the loop with the AI, so it's not just running, on its own without us kind of guiding it. So here you have the ability to give feedback on the results, and that feedback will be taken into account for future summaries for you. But without further ado, kind of digging into one of these. So let's take a look at lost applications, because that was called out as kind of the top metric to pay attention to. So here you can see that an increase in lost applications is being interpreted correctly as an unfavorable trend. Furthermore, you can see that it's calling out lost applications being higher compared to the prior period, and that the trend, a new unfavorable trend, has been detected that started about 6 days ago. So right away, we've got analysis happening without us having to do it. The AI is actually doing a lot of this preliminary analysis for us. But you also have sort of the traditional functionality of, a basic Tableau dashboard. So here we can actually break down this measure across all the available dimensions. So if I wanted to look at lost apps across program, it's as simple as just toggling from an overview to a breakdown view. But kind of digging in a little bit more here. So looking at the different insight models that run, we can see the top insight that's been detected about this particular metric is that lost applications has increased across the master and marketing. So this is calling out something that we might want to look into more closely. The other thing we have here is the ability to ask our own questions. So we might say, what is the trend? And it's going to interpret our question with some different options. So we simply select the one that we're closest match to what we were asking. And here we can see that trend that was called out in the executive summary that started 6 days ago. The AI model has detected a shift in that trend. Now, I want to use this example to kind of point out that this is not doing a projection. If I look at the very last data point, it's today, or yesterday rather. It is not projecting what that trend is going to be past today. So a lot of times we get questions when we start talking about Pulse, is this a predictive model? Can this replace, my predictive models for student retention? My initial answer is no, but, can it help you detect a trend going in a certain direction? Yes. Then you can dig deeper into the data with a traditional dashboard, perhaps to surface the contributing factors, right? So I think that's an important thing to understand. Another thing that, so there's a couple different kinds of models, insight models that run. And as we continue to develop Pulse, we're releasing new insight model types to the product. And Dan's going to show you how you can, when you're building these, you can actually toggle on or off those different models. But just to highlight a couple that are available today, there's trend detection, which we just saw here. There is comparison to expected range, which when I go back to the overview, that's the shaded area versus the actual data points, right? As soon as it started landing outside that expected range, that's what triggered this particular metric to bubble up to the top of that executive summary. Another one that is really important is what's called risk monopoly detection. So here we can see, across that breakdown, which wasn't apparent, when we did this, may not be very apparent, but when the AI looks at it, it's combining the programs and realizing that just 3 programs comprise 62% of the total lost applications. So again, calling out, insights that may be hard for a business user to extract themselves from a traditional dashboard. where is Pulse going to fit in with traditional dashboards? It is not intended to replace them. Pulse is really, again, intended to sort of, I think of it as, if you're an executive business user, right? Your day is all about monitoring what's going on with the operations that you're responsible for. Once you find something that's out of bounds, like this lost application spiking, that's when you engage some of your direct reports or your analysts if you have one assigned, and their job is to then go figure out why is it happening and what do we do next about it, right? And so I think in the flow of work, the metrics will lead to root cause analysis type exercises that may result in the use of a dashboard to get all the way down to a root cause. So that's kind of a crash course on what a pulse metric is from a business user and how one would sort of consume these. And I'm going to hand it over to Dan to talk about how you would actually build one of these. So Dan, if you want to go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah, thanks, Harold. Make sure I get the right one up here. Is that coming through?
Yep.
Great.
Anatomy of a pulse metric.
So as Harold mentioned, I'm going to take on more of the data analyst persona. How do you actually go about taking a data set and then building out what we call a metric definition? So this slide here helps to kind of outline how these different layers are structured within Tableau Pulse. So we'll walk through what the process is to generate the metric definition, which ultimately, as Harold mentioned earlier, is what's used to generate these individual KPI metrics that are followed by various Tableau Pulse users. So before we get into that, though, I actually want to start with a brief introduction and orientation just to the data set that I'm going to be using. Then we'll go into Tableau Pulse and we'll do a quick example of how to build one of those metric definitions. And then we'll do one last quick example of some of the more advanced type of metric definition calculations that you can build. So hopping over to Tableau Pulse here, the data set that I'm using was actually taken from one of our Tableau Exchange accelerators. So the academic admissions accelerator that's up there. I took the data and then have condensed it down into just a very small subset of fields here. I've done a few different prep steps here to do some work to prepare this for Tableau Pulse. But let's take a look at the wider profile view of the data to give you a sense of what's going on. Data set that I'm working with is 16,000 rows. We have an applicant ID with about 13,000 values, foreshadowing. We have then a required field for any Pulse metric that you're creating, which is a date. So as you build out a Pulse metric, as you saw on Harold's example, all of the x-axes are date driven. So that is an important field to make sure it is included in your data set. And you can see here, this is where I've done some shifting with the data that I pulled from the accelerator. I've moved it up to be recent to today's date. This is also important because Pulse really is designed to be a more in the moment type of tool. And as data is added to a data set, you are not snapshotting the data in Pulse. You're actually just continuing to build out a trend line. So it's really important to continue adding and feeding new data to Tableau Pulse. The other items here to call out as you're maybe thinking about what data sets would work well if you try to experiment with Tableau Pulse, we need to include a few different dimension fields. And these are the fields that Harold called out as being options for filtering for a business user and end user to interact with those various Pulse metrics. They're also what Tableau Pulse is using to run some of the analyses on interesting distributions. So I have a few of them included here. An institution, we have 5 different institutions, a program, various examples of particular programs across different institutions. And then we have an application status that marks each of these records here as what its end result was at the time of the data being run. I have a validity flag for just some quality control, and then a unit counter on the far right there. So I mentioned something about the foreshadowing of our total data set and then our applicant ID. So before we get into the actual Pulse interface itself, it's really important, as we all know, as data professionals, to understand the grain of the data. So in this case, the grain is actually not applicant ID. It is an individual application that was submitted by an applicant. So in this case, we have 8 different applications that this particular applicant submitted to various programs at different institutions at different dates and time. And then the application status indicates that end result. So that's what we're working with here. The last step then in my prep flow is to publish this up to my Tableau Cloud environment. I saw a couple questions as well around this. Tableau Pulse is only available in Tableau Cloud, and one of the requirements is to publish up a standalone data source. As far as we are aware at this point in time, there are no plans to add this to Tableau Server, so it's only available in Tableau Cloud. So this is published up to our Tableau Cloud environment, and let me hop over there now and pick up with this data set that I've favorited here, which was published up from that prep flow. So take a quick look at the lineage here. You can see we have the same 7 fields. And then, as Harold mentioned, I'll move into the actual Tableau Pulse interface by selecting the menu item on the left. And I am landing on my Pulse homepage. I have different metrics than Harold was viewing because I am following different metrics just as an individual user. The piece I want to focus your attention on, though, is this big blue button, New Metric Definition. So this is a functionality, a permission that creators have. So not everyone would be able to create this metric definition. When we select that, we then need to choose the data source that we're building that foundational metric definition off of. So I'm going to search for the HETUG data set that we just looked at a moment ago, connect to it, and now we're taken into the actual metric definition kind of wizard interface where we add in the details about what it is we're trying to measure and track. So we'll do a very simple example here. We're working with that emissions and applications data set. Let's take a look at application volume. And we'll add a description of monitor, changes in application volume by some of those dimension fields that I mentioned. So program and institution over time. So that's what we're after with building this kind of foundational metric definition. Moving down the list, we choose what we're going to be measuring. We already know that. We know we're going to be measuring application volume over time. So I can select that from the drop down here. And I'm just going to use my unit counter applications and sum that up. I have options in how I'd like to display that simple spark line. I'm going to use the running total, so I'll leave that as is. And then finally, I mentioned that requirement of the time dimension. So when we add that to the mix here, Pulse is going to generate that quick first preview of the Pulse metrics that other people could eventually follow and track over time. I'll call out a couple things. By default, we're looking at month to date. So we're looking at a subset of the data from April 1st to 16th. It's comparing against various time periods, the first half of March, and then also because I have the data for several years back, I'm looking at the data from 2023 as well. Okay, and then down in the last few filters here, I want to add in some of those dimensions that I mentioned, so program and institution. And this is really what makes some of the Pulse metrics come alive and adds some of that additional value to what is able to be drawn out as insights. I'll flip over here on our Insights tab to give you a sense of that. So we're seeing some examples of Tableau Pulse already pulling out those various distributions that Harold mentioned earlier, some of the insight types, and you can see over on the left the various options that are available today. You do have the capability of turning on and off particular insights depending on what you need to do here. And then the last piece I'll mention is you have some ability to control the context of, in this case, application volume going up. Is that a favorable or unfavorable outcome? by choosing kind of adding some of that into the mix here, I'm able to add some language changes into the text that's generated, as well as include some colors to help quickly identify trends that are favorable versus unfavorable. And with that, we have created our first metric definition. I'm taken then to an example metric that we were previewing a moment ago. You can see that I have that same functionality that Harold was showing a moment ago. And then I also have those various filters that are being driven by the dimensions that I've added. So for some of you out there who are longtime Tableau users, you may be experiencing a bit of panic. I know I did when I was first introduced to Pulse. Dan, are you telling me that all of my knowledge and hard work around Tableau Viz, authoring, and calculated field creation is not relevant to Pulse? I am not telling you that. So hopefully there's a collective sigh of relief on that. In many ways, that knowledge that you do have around building out Tableau visualizations is an added bonus that allows you to do some advanced metric building than would otherwise be possible. So as an example of that, I will create one more quick metric here. And we'll use the same data set. But in this case, I want to explore a little bit more that relationship between applicants and then the number of applications. So I'd like to understand, how many applications is the average applicant submitting? And maybe we want to track this over time. Now, in a normal Tableau Viz, for those of you LOD experienced folks are immediately saying, yeah, that's no problem. We create that LOD. But in this case, it isn't an option for us to choose from this menu. This is where that knowledge that you have as a Tableau Viz developer really can come into play. So we have this advanced definition button down below here that opens up, and hopefully immediately everyone feels much more at home. We're looking at the same underlying data set with a familiar interface here with various cards and our view pane. But I do also have that ability to create those more advanced calculations. So let's do a quick LOD, applications per applicant, and we'll do a quick fixed at the applicant ID level, and we'll sum our unit counter there of applications. Great, quick little LOD. We'll bring that into our data pane here, and from there we're able to do the drag and drop we're used to doing, change the various aggregations if we need to, and we can see that in this case across the data set we have 1.2 applications per applicant. Let's look at this by time. We bring in that time dimension, and we're generating then at a year level a look at how that has changed over time. In this case, a general upward trend with a little dip between 2022 and 2023. So we do have access to some of the analytics, the drag over analytics as well. You can add these to do a little bit of just quick investigation of different points on your map or on your view. But when you do actually apply this advanced definition creator, it won't persist those analytics pieces right now. When I get back over to this screen, though, I can see that those different drop-down fields have been automatically populated, but I still have that option if I'd like to add some of that functionality of being able to filter or generate insights with adding in some of those additional dimensions. For a quick eye may have noticed that the actual visual itself looks a little bit different. What we're looking at here again is the default, the first month to date section, whereas before we were looking at the year to date. So I'll do a quick example to save this. We'll call this apps per applicant, and we'll save this definition. And if we go back to our date dropdown, take a look at last year, we'll see that we get a view that lines up with what we saw a moment ago. Just through 2023, we're not finished with 2024 yet. So with that, I hope that this has given you all a sense of what's possible with Tableau Pulse and the steps that are required, both in terms of the data preparation to start exploring it, as well as some of the options to quickly generate some of these metric definitions and build metrics off of them, and then also to leverage a lot of your existing Tableau skills to do even more powerful calculations. And with that, I think we'll transition then, and if you have a few moments to do a little bit of Q&A, Harold, I'll hand it back to you for a second.
Thanks, Dan. I've been fielding, I think, all the questions so far in the chat. I do want to share my screen again real quick just to cover, there was a really good question around trust, basically, and data privacy. So there was a question about like PII data. So there are a couple different models really that live under the hood in Pulse. And actually we can think about them in two categories. There are what we call deterministic models, which are traditional kind of rules-based models, machine learning, if you will. And some of this the code we actually borrowed from narrative science. You guys may remember the data stories that you could drop into a viz. It's sort of a Mad Lib, right? Like column name, increased or decreased by insert %, right? That's deterministic. So at the individual metric level, the generated summary that you see there is deterministic, very much like a data story of the past. The executive summary across the top is what's coming back from OpenAI. So we're taking all the metrics that you're following, all those deterministically produced insights, we're bundling them up and sending them in a prompt through this Einstein trust layer to OpenAI, and the result is what you get in the executive summary at the top. So the deterministic part doesn't even leave the Tableau cloud environment, but the result of those is what leaves. Now, none of that is going to contain any kind of PII ever. But if it did, and this is the same layer that is used by Salesforce CRM AI capability, it would go through all the applicable pieces of this trust layer, which include data masking. To answer the question about PII, there are algorithms that detect PII, tokenize the individual values of PII. Then when we get the result back, we decrypt the tokenized PII so that you still get the contextual result, but without sending anything confidential outside of the trust layer. And the other important thing is everything we send to OpenAI, we have a zero data retention policy with them where they keep nothing. Nothing that you're sending them, no matter how generic or harmless it may seem, is retained by OpenAI. We have some, the other thing I'll say is we have some follow-up resources we're going to send you all. Dan is actually going to send you the prep flow and the data source so that if you have a cloud environment or you want to trial a cloud environment, you can try this out yourself. You can synthesize some data and build some Pulse metrics off of it. I've also got some worksheets that would help you collect what you need from a business user in terms of use case definitions to craft your metric definition, and sort of also a data preparation guide on what's needed to kind of shape the data to make it usable for Pulse. The key thing to think about here is Pulse is all about frequently changing recent data. So it's not going to work for comparing census across 10 years. That's just not where it's really meant for. So the use cases we've seen a lot of value are advancement, digital marketing, admissions funnel performance, enrollment, things that are changing on a daily basis that you want to keep an eye on.
Thanks, Harold.
So,
There's a new question in the chat.
Okay, if we are on premises, will there be an option for Pulse? So there will not be, is what we have heard definitively from product. There are a couple reasons. To run the trust layer that I just showed you, there's no way to do that, right? Because the Einstein trust layer actually runs in Salesforce ecosystem. Salesforce doesn't have an on-prem version for their whole ecosystem. So there just is no trust layer that could be run on-prem. And you may think, okay, I can build my own trust layer. The zero data retention agreement we have with OpenAI is very expensive. We have an enterprise agreement with them, legal contracts. To emulate that yourself, again, would be an impossible task. And then kind of third, running these deterministic and GAI models require a lot of compute. Actually, there's a lot going in to make the experience as smooth as it is that you see today. So it's just really a non-starter for those reasons, mostly infrastructure and cost.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming and giving us the up to the minute best new knowledge about Tableau Pulse.
Thanks, Jenny.
You're very
Thanks,
welcome.
Roshni.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for attending today's TUG. Before you leave, I know people are jumping off right now. Please let us know what you thought of today's meeting. We really take the feedback to heart and make changes to make our HETUG meetings a lot better. We do have the meeting information for the May TUG up already. We'll be meeting Bradley Coverdale. We'll be talking TC post TC, where it's something we're calling TC to the third. Tableau Conference takeaways from the community. And Jeff Coach and Jennifer Heaton from University of Miami are going to be talking about text analysis in, I assume, survey data and sort of the art and science of uncovering hidden gems in higher ed data. And if you want to speak at an HETUG, want to present, or if you know someone else who you think would make a great speaker for us, please let us know at the URL that is in the chat right now. And if you ended up, going to Tableau Conference and can't make a session and that session isn't recorded, feel free to throw that information into this form too. And we'll see if we can reach out to speakers to see if they'd be willing to give a sort of a rerun at one of our HETUG meetings in the future. And speaking of Tableau Conference, don't forget to register, if not for the actual conference in person in San Diego, then for the Salesforce Plus recordings. All the information, again, is in the chat. So thank you, everyone, for attending, to Lisa, Harold, and Dan for presenting, and for Andrew for being our Kahoot game show host.